Wagwan villagers. All right, so this is going to be an unboxing. It's going to be a little bit of a talk about some stuff, and it seems like it's a little bit of a different video to what I normally do, but not too different. Not when I think about it, because when I started this channel, the main thing I wanted to do, one of the main things, reasons behind starting this channel, was to talk about things that inspire me, the things that influence the way that I think, and so on. And a big part of that has been Metallica, the heavy metal rock band Metallica. So they've just released a new album. It's called Hardwired to Self-Destruct, which is what should be in this box. So I'm going to open that up in a little while. Hopefully Amazon have got the order correct. So we'll see in a little bit. But before I open this, I wanted to talk about Metallica, and I wanted to talk about my history with Metallica. Now, to memory, I probably heard the name Metallica years and years ago, like in the 80s or 90s or something, but just never really gave it much thought or anything like that. Never really looked into them, never really paid much attention to them. I grew up listening to Michael Jackson, King Sunny Ade. For those who know about King Sunny Ade, that was the music played in my house a lot as a kid. A lot of stuff in the 80s as well. A lot of pop acts during the 80s. Mel and Kim and Prince, of course, as well. And all those guys are fantastic. I'm not trying to knock them or I used to listen to that crap, and it's nothing like that. But that's what I was listening to back then. But the music that was very, very popular in my area was ragga, reggae and ragga. Specifically, ragga is a bit harder. I grew up in an area that was mostly Jamaican immigrants, first, second, and third generation Jamaican immigrants. So yeah, a lot of ragga was what I listened to, and yeah, I still listen to that as well. You got to get the ragga arsehole out, you know what I mean? Wagwan. And jungle as well. Jungle was pretty big in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, or drum and bass they call it now. Well, some people still say jungle, but but yeah, that was pretty big. That was born out of ragga and as well, so there's no surprise that became pretty big where I grew up. But that was the main stuff. Oh, and soul, hip hop, not so much. Not, I mean, a little bit hip hop. I started listening to hip hop more and more, maybe late 90s. But hip hop a little bit during that time. But anyway, but yeah, that's what I listened to mostly. So that's what I grew up, and that's what the music that was prevalent in my area and the school I went to, and the places that I frequented, and so heavy metal was just not something that came up that much. You've heard of it. You knew it existed, but you just never really paid much attention to it. Until one day, I'm watching Beavis and Butthead. And for those who don't know about Beavis and Butthead, real quick, it was a show back on in the mid-90s or so, show by Mike Judge. It was on MTV back when MTV actually showed music videos. But we won't get into that. That's a topic for another day. But it was a show on MTV, and part of the show is Beavis and Butthead would be sitting down and they'll comment on a music video, and they'll tear it in your arsehole pretty much. They'll cuss it out, say it sucks, unless of course it was actually good. Then they'll say it's good and it's cool and all that as well. And Beavis was my favorite character. He wore a Metallica t-shirt. Butthead wore an AC/DC t-shirt. So they'd be sitting down and watch the music video, and then one day the song comes on, and you just hear the opening. And Beavis is like, what the hell is this crap? But he's like, you should know Butt Munch is Metallica. And it was one by Metallica, and it was just so awesome. I remember hearing it and thinking, this song is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. Like, you have those moments sometimes we just think like, I just need to know more about this. Like, it's calm. I mean, sometimes you hear stuff and it's good and it's great and all that stuff, but you don't really feel the urge to look further into it. Every now and then you hear something, you just think, you know what, I need to know more about this. And so yeah, it's pretty much started from there. And my older brother was watching at the time, and he felt pretty much the same way. I don't think he listens to too much Metallica these days himself. He does, but himself, but I certainly do. Anyway, but he liked it also, and he actually bought this album before I did. This is my own copy. I bought it since then, but he bought this album, and I listened to it, and it's just a fantastic album. One, of course, second track on the album, absolutely fantastic. Fourth track on the album, excuse me, absolutely fantastic. But yeah, Blacken and Justice for all this. I really like Dies Eve. I say Dies Eve is my favorite because there's a part where near the beginning of the song where the drums come in and it's like and it goes yeah, awesome drums. But yeah, great album, absolutely fantastic album. And this, by the way, is it's not the original Metallica lineup, but it's the first Metallica lineup that I knew about, which is Kirk Hammett, lead guitarist, Lars Ulrich, drummer, James Hetfield, let me say his name properly, Hetfield, rhythm guitarist and lead vocals, and Jason Newsted on bass. So this is not the original Metallica lineup. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but this is the first lineup that I knew about. But this is, as I say, it's not the first album that I bought. So I bought this later on. The first album that I bought was this. However, I actually bought it on cassette tape, and I remember getting home and listening to it, just playing side A, then side B, side A again, side B again, side A again, side B again, and playing it over and over and over again. I don't know how many times I played it. Probably at least 5-6 times in a row, maybe even more than that. I just remember going over and over and over again because it's just an absolutely brilliant album. But yeah, cassette tapes, that was all the rage back then. Well, they were on their way out a little, to be fair. They were on their way out, to be fair, but yeah, I had it on cassette tape when I put it on CD. And but yeah, I think I'll say my favorite track on this is probably Nothing Else Matters. I'd say I know a lot of people go with the Unforgiven, but I like Nothing Else Matters. I think that's just an absolutely awesome song, and My Friend of Misery I really like as well. But the whole album is great. This album, by the way, officially is called Metallica. However, if you're a Metallica fan, you don't call this album Metallica. I'm not gonna say what we call it. Y'all know what we call it, or at least the Metallica fans out there do. If you're not a Metallica fan, you better get on being a Metallica fan, and you know what we call this album. But it's a great album. But anyway, I went backwards before I went forward. So these are the albums that I bought over. I don't remember which order I bought them in, but I remember buying the older albums before I bought any of the newer ones. So there was Master of Puppets, which fantastic. This is with Cliff Burton, and it's actually the last album with Cliff Burton because he died after this. Cliff Burton, you can see there's a picture there. Bassist Cliff Burton, original bassist, and Lars Ulrich. Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield. But yeah, great album. I love Battery. The opening, the way it starts off is amazing, just absolutely fantastic. And Welcome Home Sanitarium as well. I used to play that on guitar. Back when I used to play, I haven't played guitar properly for a long time, but I used to play guitar now. I was able to play that a little bit. And Orion as well. Just yeah, great. Just, brilliant album. Then it was Ride the Lightning. Now here's the thing, this is actually the 2016 32nd anniversary edition, and the reason why I have the 32nd anniversary edition and not the original CD is because I had this on cassette tape initially, I had this on cassette as well, and there was a time when I was like, okay, I want to get all my albums on all my cassettes on CD, and not just Metallica or other things that I bought as well. And so I was buying a lot of stuff that I had on cassette on CD, hence why I bought this again. And somewhere along the lines, I guess I thought I bought this on CD when I hadn't, or for some reason I just didn't get it on CD. And it was only until they did like this year where they had the 32nd anniversary of Ride the Lightning, and they were Metallica on Instagram, like, yeah, post a picture of yourself with the album, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And I went downstairs to go into my CD collection. I'm like, okay, cool, let me find it. I was like, it's not there. I do not have Ride the Lightning on CD, and that bugged me a little bit. I mean, I won't consider myself to be a collector, but at the same time, when you got everything else on CD, it does like, oh, really? I don't have that one? But yeah, I've got it on cassette tape, and I do have a download version of it as well. But yeah, I thought, you know what, that's why it's not open as well, because it's actually quite recently bought. And the thing is that when I got it, 26th anniversary edition, cool. I now have it on CD, but it does feel a bit awkward. It stands out a little bit. So I might still buy the original CD as well, just for the sake of it looking better in the collection. But anyway, it's a great album. Favorite track, definitely Fade to Black on this. A very, very sad song, but I really, it was just my mood at the time for a lot of growing up. So a lot of dealing with certain things. In fact, I'll talk a little about growing up with Metallica as well, because when I started to tell people that I listened to Metallica and heavy metal and you know, various other rock bands as well, that I was being introduced to as I was learning more about heavy metal, I was starting to listen to other stuff. And this is back in the 90s, so you know, the kids, it was like, oh yeah, that's white people's music, and you know, are you trying to be a white man now, all that kind of nonsense. And it didn't bother me too much back then, because it's just kids being kids, and kids are silly, and I'm not gonna pretend like I never said anything silly. I've said plenty of silly things. I said plenty of racist things as well in my time. Just as these silly jokes that you do where you're cussing people out. We used to say all kinds. We used to go in on people just for the fun of it, and it was all done in good humor. So I wasn't mad about that. I wasn't upset about that. It was. But later on in life, when you get a bit older, and you realize that certain things are just a bit stupid, right? You realize that certain things just don't behoove you as a person to keep doing. So you get a bit of maturity about yourself, but you still get some people saying things like, "Oh, that's white people's music. That's you're trying to be." And they're not saying it in a jokey way. They're saying it in like they actually believe that is the case, and you just have to think, so you know what? That is so ignorant. There's no such thing as white people's music. There's no such thing as black people's music. Anybody can listen to anything, whether you're white, you're black, you're Asian, whatever. If you like. I mean, listen, I've got Bangra in my music collection. You know what I mean? I've got music from all over the world. I've got Spanish music, Argentinian music, Australian, French, what else? American, of course, clearly, British. Canadian, there's a world, literally a whole world of music out there to listen to and appreciate, and it just doesn't matter that they're not from the same culture as you, they're not the same skin color as you, none of that matters. And another side of that is you get like all the the conscious people, the people that call themselves like, I don't know, King, Emperor, Fire, Bingi, Emperor Most High, Emperor Most High, and they're like, oh, heavy metal was invented by a black man, and a white man ripped him off, and they stole from us, and it was a black man invented. And I'm like, you know what? None of that even matters. I don't care who invented heavy metal, because it just doesn't matter. Don't matter if it's a black guy, don't matter if it's a white guy, don't matter if it's an Indian guy, don't matter if it was whoever, don't matter if it was a space alien that came out from space and just like, yeah, this is heavy metal. It does not matter. All that matters is that if you like it and you appreciate it, then you can listen to it. If you're not, you can listen to something else. You know what I mean? It does not matter. And the silly thing about that whole thing as well, whether you think white people invented it or black people invented it, it doesn't matter. The silly thing is that it doesn't, because whoever you're thinking of as a person who invented rock or heavy metal or whatever, or any kind of music for that matter, that person was inspired by another person, and that person was inspired by another person, and that person was inspired by another person. So you can go back and back and back and back, and it's just not going to matter, who invented it, because you can trace it so far back to just how far back you want to go. So none of that matters. If you enjoy the music, you enjoy the music. If you don't, then you don't. But yeah, if you're an adult and you're still saying silly things like this is white people's music, this is black people's music, then yeah, you're just an idiot, really. So come on, man. Everybody can enjoy everything if you want to. But anyway, we'll move on from that. So where was I? So yeah, kill them all. Kill them all. Don't actually kill them all, because maybe not such a good thing. But yeah, great album. This was their first studio album. Now I want to stress studio album specifically, because if you look at that lineup, Kirk Hammett, Cliff Burton, Lars Ulrich, James Hetfield. Kirk Hammett was not the original. Make sure it's a frame. Was not the original guitarist, but he's on their first album. Now you might be thinking, if he's not the original guitarist, how's he on their first album? Well, the original guitarist, Dave Mustaine, was exiled from the group before this album was released. But you'll find him on their demos. I don't have any of their old school demos, but you'll find him on their demos that predate this album. And also, if you look at the credits, if I'll just show you here on the CD, I don't know if you can see it because it's a bit shiny, but you can see Mustaine is actually credited as one of the writers. So I hope he got his money, even though he wasn't on the album. I hope he got his money. But he's doing well for himself. He started Megadeth and he did okay. So you might have heard of Megadeth. So I'm sure he's not wondering where his next meal's coming from. He's doing okay for himself. But anyway, so these were the older albums that I purchased before going forward. So that takes us up to whenever I got this album. I don't remember when I bought it myself, but probably sometime when I was buying all these other ones. Brilliant. So yeah, let's go forward now. Let's go forward a little bit. So next we got Loads, and this album, I think all the albums are great, but I believe it was round about, I didn't actually mention this, but I think it was round about when the Black Album came out. No, sorry, nay. It was round about when I think the And Justice for All album came out. that Metallica were being labeled as sellouts. Now, this again coming in as a bit later in Metallica, timeline. That's not something that I knew about right away. But it was right. I believe it was around about then that they started being called sellouts, because there was a music video for one, which is the one that showed on Beavis and Butthead, and there was at one point Metallica were like, "Oh, we're never going to do a music video," and a lot of their fans were like, "Oh, you sold out, you sold out, you sold out." And years and years and years later, I think it was around about when Reload came out, actually, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I think it was Lars Ulrich that said selling out is when you do something you don't want to do for the money, which I agree with. I agree with that. Just too bad it took him so long to reply to the fans with that comeback. But anyway, that's what they got called a sellout. And for a longest time, I don't think anybody says it anymore, but for a good few albums after that, they were like, Metallica was sellouts, Metallica was sellouts. And I never saw them that way. I just always saw them as making fantastic albums. And Load is another example of that. It's a great album. Still with Jason Newsted on the bass, and he's a great bassist, by the way. He left the band over creative issues, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is the band with their cigars and stuff, and I love this album. I really do. I think it's fantastic. This is the last few tracks. The last track on this, no, not even the last one, but a couple of tracks. Bleeding Me. Let me show on the back, might be easier. Bleeding Me and the Outlaw Torn are my favorites. Mama Said I was able to play guitar as well, but yeah, I don't really do that no more. I play piano now. I learned to play piano, but I haven't played guitar for a long time. But this album is just, I mean, every song on this album is fantastic. Just Ain't My Bitch. House at Jack Built. You point your finger, but there's no one around. Just the albums in general, just the songs in general, the lyrics are so intelligent, and that's one of the things that really attracted me about Metallica, is the fact that the lyrics are so intelligent. They're clearly well thought out. They're not just like some random bullshit that you put together. So when I'm writing, that's something that I try to do as well. You try to think about what is it that you're saying, and not just, okay, you're making a metaphor to something, but what does that metaphor mean, and specifically what kind of points you're trying to make. So that's stuff that you pick up, not necessarily directly in terms of, oh, he did that, I'm going to do that, but in terms of just when you hear something, it stays with you, and then it's only sometimes a little bit later you go back and think, okay, I could see my own inspiration of where that's coming from. So yeah, Metallica, I think this is a great album of a great example of James Hetfield and his songwriting. So if you are new to Metallica, maybe you never heard a Metallica song before, you wonder where to start, I think Load is a good place to start. Or Justice for All, or any of them really. But Load, if you're into writing, I'd say Load is probably a really good place to start. But all their albums, all their songs, are just writing is so intelligent. I just think it's maybe one of the best examples of it. This is the only single that I've ever bought of Metallica. I don't buy singles very much in general, and it's the only one. I have a few. I think the first CD I ever bought was probably a single, maybe, but I don't buy many singles. But this is the only Metallica single that I have, and it's Until It Sleeps from the Load album. And it's okay. I mean, it's a single. we can do. It's a pretty cool cover. Reload, another fantastic album. So they did Load, then they reloaded, and similar designs on the front covers. This one is phlegm, it looks like, and this one is, I don't know, some kind of close up of the sun maybe. And anyway, it's reloaded. And again, I say there's another good example of writing as well. Load and reloads. Fixer, especially the last track on the album, Fixer. I love there's this part when it's like, and it's such a cliche part, not even cliche, maybe it's a wrong word to use, but it's a part where so many musicians have done this, where they're doing this thing and the music's playing and they suddenly stop the music, but the voice carries on. But for some reason, it just really sticks out in Fixer. Blood force. I won't remember the lyrics right now. Sweat for dirt, 3 X's for the stone. I won't do the whole song. I'll probably forget the lyrics anyway, but still. Carpe Diem, Seize the Day, Devil's Dance, The Memory Remains. Memory Remains was a collaboration with Meredith something or other, I want to say. I don't remember her name, but there was a lady in the video, and you hear her voice on the CD, on the music, on the track. I think it's Meredith something. Doesn't really matter. I'll put it on the I'll put it on the screen. But yeah. Unforgiven to Unforgiven, by the way, I didn't mention this. Unforgiven, I believe, and I may be wrong because it's not like I've ever met James or anybody from Metallica, but I believe the first Unforgiven song was about himself, and the second Unforgiven song was about James's daughter. And there's a third one as well on Death Magnetic, which I'll show in a second, or in a minute or two, but probably more than actually. Anyway, but. Yeah, there's a progression with those songs: Unforgiven, Unforgiven 2, and Unforgiven 3. Are you unforgiven too? But yeah, this is brilliant. I really, really, I like all the albums, but excellent. And then next, now this album is interesting to me because I've always believed that heavy metal and classical music are very, very, very similar in their structure and the way they are. And if you take any heavy metal song and you play it with violins and cellos and things like that. In fact, Apocalyptic is a good example of that, actually. And who else? Vika Goes Wild on YouTube. If you check out, she does piano versions of rock songs. But if you listen to that, you'll see that and you compare it to, say, your average, typical musician that we count as classical, Chopin or Beethoven, Bach. It sounds very, very similar. You could easily mistake a heavy metal song that's played with a violin or a cello for an old classical song because they have very, very similar structures to them that I've always believed. And you get a sense of that with this album because it's a collaboration with the San Francisco Orchestra conducted by Michael Kamen. And so what they've done with this album is that they've taken a whole bunch of their older songs and this case is broken. It's a double CD, and they've made sort of heavy metal slash orchestra versions of their songs, and it's still heavy metal. They've still got the electric guitars, still got the drums, still got the bass, still got all that going on, and you still hear that coming through. But then there is the violins and the cellos and the percussions and all that stuff accompanying it. It sounds amazing. It sounds absolutely amazing. And there's a couple of new tracks on this as well. One is No Leaf Clover, and the other is Human. But yeah, both great. Battery. I personally think Battery is amazing on this album. I mean, Battery is a great song just anyway, but this version of it on this album is incredible. And also with this album as well, it starts off with the Ecstasy of Gold. Now, I've never been to a Metallica concert, so I didn't know this was a tradition of theirs, but they actually play the Ecstasy of Gold at every one of their concerts. At least everyone I don't know if they still do it, or maybe something they used to do. As I say, I haven't been to any of their concerts, but this is something that I've come to learn, that they play that as a tradition at the beginning of every concert. They play Ecstasy of Gold, which is a song or a piece of music rather by Ennio. Let me say his name correctly, Ennio Morricone. And it originally, at least as far as I'm aware, it originally appeared on the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly film, where Tuco is looking for the grave, Arch Stanton. And it plays that music as he's running through the graveyard, and it's fantastic. But yeah, they do a version of this on that, and it's great. And because I didn't know they did that, when I found it out, I'm like, this is a song that I like. This is a piece of music I like, Ecstasy of Gold. Something that I already liked anyway, because it's a great film and that's a great scene and the great music accompanies it. And you're like, oh, Metallica doing it as well. So yeah, a bit of a fanboy moment, there. But yeah, it is what it is. Another double album. This is again old songs, but this is cover versions of old songs. So what they've done with this is Metallica covered other people's songs on this album and put it with their own take on it. So this is called Garage Inc. And I believe the Garage Inc. is as a reference to their old days as a garage band when they used to do a lot of covers back then. That's how I've understood it anyway. But yeah, and I love this in the inlay, the Metallica. That is awesome. They should really do that. They should totally do it for real, the Metallica, and dress like that as well. James with on singing everybody's dinner accompaniments. That they should totally do that for real, because that is so awesome. The Metallica covering all your favorites. It's awesome. But yeah, it's a great album. I mean, one thing I like about this album, because the thing about music is that it's easy to, when you listen to something, you listen to stuff that's around you at the time you're listening to it, but it's easy to not go back and listen to the stuff that inspired them. And albums like this or things like this really put you in the mindset of, okay, this is the people who inspired the people that I like, and they want to know more about those guys, and it opens up those doors to in some respect to some of the older musicians. Not for everybody. I know some people are just going to look back anyway, but not everybody does. Not everybody does, and sometimes you need to hear somebody say something like, "Yo, this is what inspired me, or this is the things that I was listening to," and you think, "Oh, cool," now you've got, it gives you kind of a starting point to go back a little bit. So albums like this or things like this are great for that. Tuesday's Gone is a great song. I'd say my favorite is probably, I have a few favorites. Die, 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 My Darling, I'll be seeing you. And yeah, Tuesday's Gone's really nice. Am I Evil? It's I'm not sure I could pick a favorite actually. Whiskey in a Jar. Yeah, they're all great songs. They're all great songs, and it's just their versions of other people's songs is. Yeah, they did a good job of covering it and adding their own mix. That's the thing about when you do a cover version as well, is that you cover a song that you want it to be recognizable as the original, but at the same time you want to have your own take on it as well. Otherwise, what's the point? And I think Metallica hit that. They strike that balance really well. Where if you haven't heard originals before, you go back and listen to them. If you have heard them before and you compare it to this, you could tell where the original inspirations, original music is coming from, but then you could also hear their own Metallica take on it as well, and that's what makes this a great cover album as well. 27 songs, really good album. So now we have quite a controversial album in the Metallica timeline, Saint Anger. Now, here's the thing. When you put this album on, and I think many Metallica fans would agree with me when I say this, when you put this album on and it starts playing and you listen to it, I think you could be forgiven for thinking that there was something wrong with your CD player or something, maybe I've got a loose connection somewhere, like what's going on here? This sounds a bit awkward. It's a very, very different sound to Metallica is what I'm saying. And it's not a bad album. Let me be clear on that. It's not a bad album. It's a great album, actually. It's a fantastic album. But it's just a very different sound. So when you hear it, it could be, that's just a little bit awkward sounding. But yeah, it's great. I mean, Frantic, tick, 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 tock. I think Frantic actually the video for Frantic was filmed in a prison, San Quentin, I want to say. San Quentin. It was filmed in a prison. I may be wrong on the prison name, but it's filmed in a prison. I believe it was Frantic. It was definitely one of the songs on this album anyway. Definitely one of the songs on this album the video was filmed in a prison. I think it was Frantic. But anyway, it's a great album. It's just a different sound. And yeah, it's made it a little bit awkward at first. This version actually came with a DVD. You can see the DVD there, which I have watched, but I haven't really watched it all that much. I do listen to this album quite a bit though. And I do like it. So I say I like the album. It's a great album. It's just a little bit awkward. But another thing about this album actually as well is that it lacks traditional guitar solos, which I can imagine that Kirk Hammett weren't too happy about that, and especially if you watch the Metallica documentary, Some Kind of Monster, where it's mentioned as well, and they're talking about not doing solos, and Kirk Hammett was like, "Excuse me, can I just say something? Can I just say something?" And yeah, it's not. I mean, here's the thing: a song doesn't need a guitar solo to be a good song, of course, but it is a little bit, it's different sound, no solos. I'm not sure how I feel about this. It is a little bit like that in the beginning, but I still enjoy this album. I still listen to it. I think it's great. But yeah, I'm glad they didn't quite do this sort of thing anymore. I mean, it's good as an experiment, but maybe not, as a regular thing. But yeah, it is what it is. That's my favorite phrase. It is what it is. Because if it wasn't, then it'd be something else. That's what my friend says. It is what it is. So next we have Death Magnetic. Now this is the album with The Unforgiven 3 on it. Now this album I like, but I'd say I've probably listened to this album the least out of all the Metallica albums that I have. I've probably listened to this one the least. So there's a few songs that stand out for me, like Cyanide stands out for me. Unforgiven 3, mainly just because it's part of the Unforgiven series, and just pay attention to that because I like those songs. It's a good song as well, but but I think overall I will say this is probably the weakest Metallica album, and the shame of that is, I mean, it's not Rob Trujillo's first album with Metallica. This was his first album. Oh, I didn't mention that, actually. Yeah, after sometime after Garage Inc. was released, Jason Newsted left the band, and he was replaced with Rob Trujillo, who was previously in Sepultura, and now with Metallica. But so this wasn't his. So this was Rob Trujillo's first album, but I don't think he had much of an input on it, because I think a lot of it was already done by the time he joined the band. So you don't really get a full sense of. I mean, you can see that he can play guitar, of course, and if you're familiar with Sepultura, you know what you can do there. But in terms of what he can bring to Metallica, it wasn't too apparent on this album. And this was maybe, I would say, like the first time that you have like that starting the creative process with Rob Trujillo as the bassist. Jason Newsted, excuse me, Rob Trujillo's bassist, James Hetfield, lead vocalist, Lars Ulrich guitars, Kirk Hammett, lead guitars. Vocals, sorry, for James Hetfield and rhythm guitar. So this is like, you know, the first as that creative process from the beginning. And it's, as I said, it's not a bad album. It's not a terrible album at all. It's I just, something about it just I guess in the end it just didn't really do it for me. It wasn't. It's hard to pinpoint. So, you know, sometimes stuff just, yeah. And I guess this was it. I guess, you know, after however many years I've been listening to Metallica at this point. I mean, this was 2008. However many albums I haven't even counted how many there, but loads. It just wasn't doing it for me. And I do like the cover though. That cover is awesome. Look at this. Let me show you properly. This is an awesome inlay card. You can see it there. It opens up and it's yeah, opens up like that. So you got the bands at the back there. But yeah, it's an awesome inlay card. It's a good album. I do like, and I have listened to it a few times. Listened to it recently, but I think overall, it has to happen eventually. I guess not if you're around long enough, not everything's gonna be perfect, but it happens anyway. The next album is then another collaboration album, this time with Lou Reed and Metallica, called Lulu. And this is just a weird album because it's got Lou Reed doing most of the vocals, and Metallica doing the instrumentals, and James Hetfield with a little bit of vocals as well. But it's just a weird album. It's like heavy metal mixed with poetry, spoken word, and that's not why it's weird. It's just more the lyrics why is what makes it weird. Like the first thing you hear, and when you put an album on, you hear some music, and the first words you hear are, and I quote, "I would cut my legs and tits off when I think of Boris Karloff and Kinski in the dark of the moon." So yeah, and there's a lot of references to young girls and vaginas and twats and young girls' vaginas, and yeah, it's just a weird album. Or perhaps I just don't get it. Maybe that's sometimes things are just too maybe just too over my head. I guess it could happen. But it's a weird album. If you're looking to get into Metallica, maybe don't start here. But Lou Reed, of course, he's a musician from a long time ago. He died, I think, a year or so after this was released, or give or take. He died sometime after this release. Clearly it was after this was released. Wouldn't actually, no, you can die before something's released. Just would it be after it was made? So yeah, I could have been correct. But anyway, it was after it was released he died. They're on the back with Lou Reed in the middle there, and Rob Trujillo, new bassist. So yeah, that brings us all the way up to this new album, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Now here's the thing. I haven't listened to the actual CD. Clearly, it's still boxed, but I have heard pretty much every song on the album so far, because what Metallica did differently this time around is release music videos for all their songs on all the songs on the album on their YouTube channel. So I've listened to a lot of their songs already, and definitely I'm feeling it. You know, Death Magnetic, Good album. Wasn't feeling it so much, to be fair, but definitely with the songs they released so far, Hardwired till Self-Destruct, I'm feeling it. So I do believe Metallica are back. Metallica were never never gone for me, really. It's just, you know what I mean? It's this for 30 years they've been around. Pretty more than 30 years. Probably close to 40 years now. Or if you go for their first album, 36. I ain't gonna work it out. Whatever. It's too many. I just messed up my whole pile of them. Screw it. Whatever. Just dropping CDs now. It is what you know. What I ain't even gonna screw it. They've been around a long time, over 30 years, nearly 40 years. They've been around a long time, and they're definitely still one of my favorite bands. Definitely not gone off Metallica. Definitely haven't grown out of them. I feel their music overall generally has improved over the years. They've matured over the years. The music has matured over the years, and great thing about it is, as a fan, you feel like you grow with them as well. Even though I came like halfway into their timeline, but still, it's just awesome to see a band just evolve and grow and adapt. And yeah, maybe not everything was a hit, and some things was a bit weird or a little bit awkward, but I say overall they're still producing great music. And what I've heard for a Hardwired Self-Destruct, I think this is another fantastic album and putting them back up there. So good to see that Rob Trujillo has a great album that I could appreciate, because he is a great bass player. He's an absolutely fantastic bass player. It's just unfortunate the album didn't. I won't talk about it no more. But let's open this up, because actually I bought the special edition version of this. So I'm gonna open this up and unbox it. And we have Metallica, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, Deluxe 3 CD sets, Hardwired, Moth into a Flame, like a moth into a flame, Atlas Rise, 14 bonus songs as well. Okay, cool, that's always good. So this is what it looks like. This is the special edition version, or limited, I don't know what they call it, I can't remember. And yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I have all these songs. Let me see if there's anything I don't recognize. Let's real quick. I'm pretty sure I've heard Atlas Rise. I think I've heard that. Yeah, no, I've heard it as well. I think one of the earlier ones I heard, actually. Now That We're Dead, maybe I haven't heard that one yet, actually. But anyway, the songs that I've heard, which is pretty much most of them by the looks of it, they're great songs. I really enjoyed it. And if you haven't already, check out the YouTube, their YouTube, because, as I say, they've released just about all their songs on the YouTubes. You can actually listen to the whole album for free, pretty much, on their YouTube. You know what I mean? So which is, considering the whole Napster fiasco, that's a big move for Metallica to just put all their songs out there and just say, yep, there you go, you can listen to it for free. That's a big move, so appreciate that from Metallica that they do something like that. It's awesome. Hopefully more bands, or at least more big bands. I understand why smaller bands can't always do that, because you know you got money that you owe. It's a little bit different when you're a smaller band, but certainly bigger bands that have made their money, made their name. Hopefully more of those bands would do something like that, because that's an awesome idea. Anyway, let's get this open. Open up this free CD set. See what we got here. All right, look at that. That is so cool. That's a pretty cool artwork. So I really like the artwork so far. Free CD. So we've got disc 1, which is let's see if I could sort the difference. Okay. All right, so disc 1 and disc 2 are music. All right, so it is on music. It's not like one's a DVD or something. Well, there's a bonus DVD with, they said 14 tracks. So I guess this is just all music as well. I don't think they give me a video this time round. Oh, well. But it looks like the bonus track has got some live stuff on it. So we've got Lords of Summer, Ronnie Rising Melody, When a Blind Man Cries, Remember Tomorrow. I think these are live stuff that they've done over the years. So okay, cool. That'd be good to listen to. Maybe not even over the years. It might be just all from one show, actually. But anyway. Something of note, actually. I don't know how important this is to anybody, but this is on the Blackened label, which I believe is Metallica's own label. And this might be the first album on the Blackened label, actually, on their new label, because yeah, up until Vertigo, I don't know if you can say it, but Vertigo was a label they used previously on all these albums that are just in some messy pile right now was Vertigo. Looks like this is the first on their own label, Blackened. Blackened is the end. So that's a good move. Why not? They've been around long enough. They could have their own label. See what's in here. Inlay cards. Some more cool artwork. I saw an interview with Metallica recently, and they one of the questions they were asked was if they'd do another cover album where they cover other people's songs, and Kirk Hammett replied that it's something that he would like to do, but I guess there's no plans for it right now. But hopefully they do, because I think they did a great cover album with Garage Inc. So hopefully they do another one. Okay, and song words. This is something that you don't always get in music. I mean, rock bands tend to do it quite a lot, but not every musician does. And I hope and it's something I wish every musician did, because I still buy CDs. I buy downloads, but I like to buy albums too. But not everyone does song words, song lyrics in their inlay cards. So most rock bands typically do, but for some reason other bands, other groups, other musics don't always do it. Not always. It's like every now and then they might, but Michael Jackson, I think, always has song lyrics in his albums. So yeah, I think you should. I think they should do it. I think every band, every musician should always put song lyrics in their inlay cards, because it just makes sense. Gives you something to read while you listen to music, and especially when sometimes you don't really know what they're saying. It happens, right? You hear a word and it's like, I'm not sure what you just said there. So let me consult something. So yeah, that is my history with Metallica up until now, up until Hardwise or Self-Destruct from and Justice for All, starting here, and Justice for All, going all the way back to Kill 'Em All. Where's Kill 'Em All gone? It's all out of order now. Kill 'Em All, okay, all the way up to Garage Inc. and S&M and Lou Reed and Metallica and Saint Anger and Load, Reload, all that stuff, Master of Puppets, all the way through that up until where we are now, which is Hardwise to Self-Destruct. So, I'm not sure how long this video was. It's probably way longer than I originally intended it to be. So if you've listened to this the whole way through, thank you for that. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, enjoyed me musing about my history with Metallica and what their music and how what's inspired, what I found inspiring about it, and all that stuff. And if you have, give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. Either way, let me know your reasons in the comments. Thank you for watching, and until whenever, if ever. Let me see. I should have thought about a quote earlier. Let me go with this. Frantic, tick, 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 tock. All right. Peace out, guys.